Good evening and welcome to the Baltimore Orioles team preview show. I'm Joey Buchholz. Tonight we'll be previewing the fifth place Orioles from 2021. I've got my very good friend Nick Knuckles. Nick Korth is the name on his birth certificate. He'll be joining me shortly. We're going to talk Baltimore Orioles, share some old baseball memories. I've known Nick, I want to say 12 years. We'll cover that timeline here in a bit. But this Orioles team, as I mentioned, took fifth place in 2020. Had a really good pitching staff, sixth in the Utopian Baseball Universe in pitching. They really struggled hitting. They were 31st in the league hitting. We're in that wild card hunt right until the very end. So they've made some additions this year. Tonight we're going to reveal the entire roster. I've got Earl Weaver's starting lineup for opening day. We'll look at the starting rotation. You've seen a bunch of these shows. This is how we do it. But the star of the show is not the Orioles roster. The star of the show is this gentleman right here, Nick Knuckles. Nick, you're a good friend of mine, correct? Is this correct?
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Do you remember the origin of this nickname? Do you remember? If not, I can share it with the group.
Yeah, we'll let you tell the story. I remember, though.
All right. So I have a daughter, a beautiful daughter who's 15 years old. And like I said, I probably, Nick, what year did we meet? 2009-ish?
No, you're right, 2008.
2008. So it's been 13 years. And in 2008, I had a 3-year-old daughter who, I'm going to embarrass Nick, had a little bit of a crush on Mr. Korth here. And whenever
Who doesn't, right?
Well, I do. I have a crush on you. Whenever I bring my daughter into the credit union, Nick would give her the Knuckles, and she just started referring to him as Nick Knuckles. And the name is stuck, and obviously it's right here on your screens tonight.
It's a good nickname.
It's a solid nickname. Do you have have you ever gotten like a tattoo or a screensaver?
Not that you want to see.
All right, so it's like a tramp stamp or something like that.
Something similar, yeah.
So Nick and I, like I said, we've known each other a long time. Nick and I were actually Nick actually was at my first Brewers postseason game 1 against
Arizona.
So we were at game 1 of Arizona, and then were we together for game 1 against St. Louis?
I don't know. I mean, I went to every game but the middle one of the Arizona series. So, I mean, because I was just buying single tickets for that entire series. They were so cheap.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing. I actually that year. So I know you and I were there for game 1 against Arizona. I know I was at game 1 against St. Louis. I remember that was a day where I think that was the game where I was scheduled to work, and I was trying to find people to work for me, and I begged Stephanie to let me leave early, and she did. And I remember when I think it was Randy Wolf, when he beat St. Louis in game 4 of the NLCS that night, I spent $440 on a World Series ticket on game 1. And I still have, I don't have it on me right now, but I still have that printout of a World Series ticket for 2011 that was not meant to be.
That was brutal. Not as bad as 2018, but.
Correct. Now, Nick, one of the reasons I have Nick on the show tonight, I used to run a fantasy baseball league, and Nick is probably too humble to share it himself, but Nick dominated that league. I think we did 5 years, and he won years 2, 3, and 4, and then got to the championship in 5, lost to my cousin Joe. And we used to represent franchises. So, of course, I was the Mets, and Nick was the Orioles. Now, Nick, tell us why or what your tie is to the Orioles franchise.
Literally none.
Zero.
Yeah. But what I will say is that doing some research, I found out that their origins are here in Milwaukee.
Correct. Now, do you want to share what those origins are? Some of the people.
It's very. I just saw it on Wikipedia.
Do you want me to share it?
Yeah.
So, in kind of preparation for doing this Utopian last year, I actually wasn't even aware of this up until about a year ago. So the Baltimore Orioles moved from St. Louis in 1954, but the St. Louis Browns actually started in 1901 as the Milwaukee Brewers, and then moved to St. Louis in 02, and then after over 50 years, moved to Baltimore. So the Milwaukee Brewers were actually one of the original 8 American League teams in 1901. This is the information you found on the Wikipedia?
Yeah. And it was didn't they play just north of where Miller Park currently is?
Within miles.
Yeah.
And if there's anyone watching tonight that wants to add to that, you can. As I mentioned a couple days ago, I think with our Cincinnati show, right now, this is reaching out to, we have at least 3 people watching. The show last night has reached over 80 people already. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them. We're going to get to them at the end. We had a bunch a couple nights ago. We had probably 12 or 13 last night. So we're going to get to all of those at the end so we can give Mr. Knuckles all the attention in the world. Nick is, by the way, on top of winning 3 fantasy baseball championships. He's won 2 or 3 football championships. He is my reigning fantasy football champion. Nick, do you want to say hi to Greg? I'm sure he's watching tonight.
Hey, Greg, how you doing? I hope you're over, things.
Greg, are you over things? You can type it into the comments, and we'll get to that later.
No, but I would add about the Orioles. So as Joey mentioned, I'm a very big fantasy baseball fan, and I'm in a different fantasy baseball league that I've been in for 16 years. And that league also has prospects. We have a full 10-man prospect bench. And so I've always very closely kept in touch with prospects and the draft and people who are coming up. And my claim to fame is that I got Mike Trout, and he carried me to a couple of championships, and then I traded him away for a boatload of players and have never recovered from that. So little Babe Ruth, maybe.
There's a curse?
Yeah, I got a little curse on me. But I was borderline obsessed with the Orioles farm system in 2010-ish. And I think it's a crime that they did not – they got very unlucky, I think, in 2014, 2015, and just how the Ducks kind of fell in a row with that era. So 2014 was Kansas City won the World Series, and the Orioles lost to Kansas City in that AL championship, I think. Or
I thought it was Toronto.
2014, it was definitely Kansas City.
Okay, so yeah, I know for a couple years there, I know Kansas City was in back-to-back World Series. Toronto was in back-to-back ALCSs. It could have been 15-16.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
So, but the thing about that 2014 season is they did it mostly without Manny Machado, who was probably at his best at that time because he had a knee injury. And Matt Wieters was also injured, who was arguably at his best at that time. Chris Davis was at his best, and he was suspended, I think, for the stretch run and the playoffs. And they had so many extremely talented, like at that time, like Kevin Gausman and Dylan Bundy were two of the top 15 prospects in baseball. And, you know, Bundy underwent like 4 elbow and shoulder surgeries. And Gausman never figured out what a 2-seam fastball was, it seemed, or how to throw it. But yeah, Adam Jones, I loved that team. If I wasn't a Brewers fan, or if I didn't have any loyalty, it would have absolutely been the Orioles, because up until 2008, when I moved to Milwaukee, I like baseball. Like I definitely I loved baseball, but I played it. I mean, I was playing softball and baseball and coaching. And so I wasn't paying that much attention to baseball at a serious level, enough to, you know, do fantasy and stuff, but not to watch it, you know, on a, you know, maybe a couple of games a week, and that's it. But, you know, like that 2010 to 2012, I really I was in my formidable years of baseball, right? And of really diving in and becoming a serious fan. And yeah, that Orioles, like that team, it was just, I loved everything about how they built that, and they just, it didn't work out. So
Do you happen to remember when we did that league? I forget what the years were. I want to say 2010 to 15. We did that 5-year league.
Probably. Yeah.
Do you remember who my guy was that I kept all 5 years? And I basically, he got me to a couple 4th place finishes. I think he led the league in home runs one year. Do you remember?
Was it Chris Davis?
It was Chris Davis. So this was when we had I don't know if it was on the message boards for the site we used, or if we had a fantasy page on Facebook, but every time the guy had a home run, I would post Crush Davis. And people would probably get tired of that, because I think the best I ever did in that league was 4th. And I know I had a handful of 10th place finishes, but I always had Crush Davis. I probably always had more Mets than I should have had. But I know my cousins always had all the Brewers, but one of them did well and one of them did not.
That's the curse of fantasy baseball, right? Like there are 2 things you can always count on in fantasy sports: players getting overdrafted in, you know, homer type leagues. So I never plan on picking a Packer in a league that I'm in with my friends, or, you know, that are local, right? Because someone always overdrafts your Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Like in our league, it's different, right? Because I had number 1 pick, and there's structural things there.
Yeah.
But, you know, then the biggest problem that I have in fantasy baseball is your exact thing with Chris Davis. And there are a lot of times that you'll just go down in flames because you're just this is the year for this guy, right?
Well, again, but if you look back, he had, I think, back to back 50 homer years, or 50 and 48. It's what kills me is in fantasy baseball, there's rotisserie elements to it. So, I'm getting 50 homers, but I'm also getting a 206 batting average. I'm getting a guy who is really not much of a run producer. Yeah, he was hitting 50 homers, but I think one year he had 50 homers and 90 ribbies or something like that. But I don't know. It's just I've been playing fantasy on and off now for 31 years. I've never won a fantasy baseball league. I've never won rotisserie. I've never won fantasy. I don't even think I've been to a championship. I think 4th place is my best. I was in Nick Bromley's league for 2 years, and then we stopped for last year. I don't know if we're doing it this year. I did put up a poll about a week ago to gauge interest. I have to look back at that. I think we have 8 or 10 people that might be interested in that.
I would do it. I do like having a redraft league, like doing a league where everybody is just thrown back, because I'm just with this league that I've been in for so long. It's called Z-ball.
Yeah.
And Z was the head coach of Marshfield's baseball team where I grew up.
You just named it after him?
Yeah, and I've never met the guy. But but I get like so like in depth about, you know, some of these players and like tracking them from like such a young age. But speaking of fantasy baseball in the Orioles and the Utopian Baseball, is it league?
It's universe.
Universe. That's I knew I was off.
If someone says league, they'll get a pass. But, you know, if, you know, we start getting branded and, you know, hosting Saturday Night Live, then at some point, then, you know, we want to make sure the brand is out there.
It's got to be right. Yeah. But speaking of that, and a guy who is on the Orioles roster is a very underrated leadoff hitter, and you haven't announced the roster yet, right?
So we're going to do that shortly. And my favorite part of the show, obviously, I love connecting with people I've never met and obviously old friends. But this is the part of the show we're going to get to. First, what I'm going to do is kind of tell the Orioles fans watching tonight who they're going to open the season with, who they're going to play in different holiday games. Then I start going into the, you know, opening day lineup, starting rotation, and then this is where you tell me where I messed up. Because, you know, I might have some players I left off, or maybe this guy should be hitting third instead of sixth or whatever. The starting lineup is fluid, so that's going to change throughout the season. As statistics roll in, if a pitcher's not doing well, there's two other starting pitchers that could step in. What we don't have is trades and minor leagues and stuff like that. At some point, maybe we discuss that down the road. But let's look at, before we get to the roster, let's look at what they look like for a schedule. They're going to start this is another team, and it just, the way it turns out, a lot of these teams have all home games or all road games in some of these bigger events. Orioles are going to open the season at home against Tampa Bay. So that's Friday afternoon, March 26th. Rays at Orioles. And then on Memorial Day, they're going to host the Red Sox. On Independence Day, this is actually going to be a nationally covered game. The Orioles are hosting the Dodgers, and this is going to commemorate the 1966 World Series. So they're going to be wearing 1966 jerseys. On Labor Day, they're hosting the Expos, and they're finishing the season at home against the Phillies. Now, again, I don't know because I haven't looked at all the teams yet, but there's a handful of teams that have home games in all 5 of these scenarios, and there's a handful of teams that have 5 road games. It's just the way it worked out. So opening against the Rays, Memorial Day against the Red Sox, Independence Day, big celebration against the Dodgers, Labor Day against the Expos, and then finishing the season against the Phillies. And ironically, the Phillies and Orioles finished last year neck and neck for 4th place. So hopefully for fans of the Orioles, they'll have something bigger to play for this year.
Well, what I would say after doing some research, because I'm younger, I mean, a lot of the Orioles history is very much pre me even being alive. But this seems like a team that 4th place is okay, but they could do better.
Yeah, I mean, they have the pitching. They were 6th in pitching last year. They didn't hit very well, but as you're going to see, this opening day lineup is pretty stacked. And wait till you see who's on the bench. So this is Earl Weaver's opening day lineup. Again, it doesn't mean that these players are going to be playing every day with this lineup, but against the Rays on opening day, leading off and playing right field is going to be Brady Anderson. Batting second at shortstop, Cal Ripken's son, Cal Ripken Jr. Batting third.
Never heard of him.
He's his son. Well, let's see what he can do. Batting third and playing first base will be Eddie Murray. Batting fourth will be left fielder Frank Robinson. Batting fifth will be center fielder Adam Jones. Batting sixth, third baseman Brooks Robinson. Batting seventh on opening day, second baseman Brian Roberts. Batting eighth, catcher Chris Hoyles. And I know Nick is going to have an issue with this one, of course, but he'll tell you why in a minute. And then the opening day pitcher for the second straight year will be Jim Palmer in batting ninth. So, Nick, tell me where I failed you.
No, I think like it's an adequate lineup. I really like Brian Roberts.
You do like Brian Roberts.
Love Brian Roberts.
And I know, I got this impression when we talked a couple days ago. You're a big Matt Wieters fan.
I am, but that would be one thing that I wanted to ask you about is that admission. Like, I mean, he's a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove. You know, he was arguably the 2 seasons where he was in the All-Star game and he won the Gold Glove. He received MVP votes. He also, I mean, like those 2 seasons, he was arguably the best catcher in baseball. I mean, I know longevity is an issue, but I mean, in Hoyles also pre me being alive, I think, or I was very young.
Well, you were young, so
he had over 400 homers, right?
I don't think he had 400 homers.
No. I'm sorry, that was 400 RBIs, maybe.
Yeah, it's 400 something.
That would have been crazy.
Something.
No, he did not have 400. I don't even know why I said that. That was as soon as it was like it was dumb.
It's a forgivable offense. So last year, when I did the rosters last year, it was very, I was just throwing names in a spreadsheet. And then I realized that, some teams had 4 catchers, some had 2. Some teams had 3 shortstops, some teams had 1. I wanted them to be uniform this year. So 2 catchers, pretty much 2 at every position, 7 starting pitchers, 7 relievers. And then the idea that if they're not on the roster this year, they can still, they'll still qualify to be next year. Think of it as, Hoyles was on the roster last year, or I'm sorry, Wieters. Wieters was on the roster last year as a 3rd catcher. He's not this year, but, if there's not production from the Orioles catchers, we could see Wieters come back next year and explode. And obviously one of my goals was to bring in fans from every franchise. So as we grow this, if I have people saying, hey, we need to get Matt Wieters on this roster, he will be. There's just no question about it. But
people are barking loud enough.
Well, not yet, but I'm sure it's going to happen. We actually have a poll up right now. We're going to give results of that tomorrow to find out who's going to be the closer for the Indians to start the season. As of this afternoon, it was Andrew Miller and Jose Mesa battling for that. And we're going to do that a couple times during these team preview shows. Let's look at the rest of the bench. As far as position players, we've got Rick Dempsey. George Sisler is one of the top maybe 20 hitters of all time. He's going to start opening day on the bench, but he'll be one of the first guys off the bench.
Tough move.
That is a tough. Well, Eddie Murray is just, he's a stud too. You got 2 Hall of Famers there. We also have Frank Grant from the Negro Leagues, Rio Ruiz, Manny Machado, Nick Markakis, Trey Mancini, and my boy, Crush Davis.
This is a very good team.
This is a good team. I mean, 5th place last year, but they could compete this year. Who knows? We'll see. That's why you have to watch these games happen. Let's look at the starting rotation. One of the best in the league last year. They were 6th overall in pitching, but they were 4th for ERA with starting pitchers. Jim Palmer, Mike Cuellar, Mike Mussina. So those 3 starters are gonna face Tampa Bay to start the season, and then Dave McNally and Steve Stone will get starts against Florida before it wraps around, and then Palmer gets the start in Game 6. They also have Scott McGregor and Mike Flanagan waiting in the wings. Steve Stone actually pitched pretty well last September. when Flanagan struggled a bit. Palmer and Cuellar were lights out last year, both in the top 10 in ERA. So I anticipate that they're going to be really good pitching again this year, especially from their starters.
You know, one pitcher that I found in a little bit of research was Greg Olson.
Greg Olson, Nick, that's a great segue. Greg Olson is going to be the closer for this Baltimore Orioles team.
This is an official announcement?
This is breaking news. Greg Olson, it's right on your TV screens right now. Greg Olson will be the closer on opening day.
And I didn't even mean to lead you into that.
Look, we're creating magic here on TV tonight. We did not plan this.
All I'm going to say is he put up some numbers.
Greg Olson is a stud. Greg Olson was a closer when I was a kid, probably junior high school, freshman in high school. He was the closer for the Orioles. Joining him in that pen, Zach Britton, Jim Johnson, Tippy Martinez, some older names here, Stu Miller, Pete Rickert, and Sammy Stewart. So again, these guys can pitch. Earl Weaver comes into the season with one of the finer staffs and rotations. Good bullpen. We have a new fan of Greg Olson and Nick Knuckles. Yeah.
I'm doing some research here.
This is, by the way, if you're watching right now, this is live research that Nick Knuckles is doing.
No, because there's a guy who I really liked on like that 2015, 2017 pitching staff, and I'm curious as to why he was left off.
I would love to. By the way, for any future guests, I want you to put me on the spot. This is why we're here. I will have an answer for Nick as soon as he finds his name.
Michael Givens.
Was he a starter or reliever?
Reliever.
So the reason he's not on the roster is, and this is as transparent as I can be, I'm not that familiar with him. And one of the things, and I talked about this on a couple shows, when I created the rosters initially, I wanted a good mix, a real good balance of all-time greats, which I think we have here, some of my favorites. That's why Chris Davis makes this roster. And then guys I know from like baseball cards. So
sure.
So at this time, the gentleman you mentioned didn't qualify. But again, as I learned, this is a great project to learn the history of the game. If I see what you're seeing and it makes sense, he'll be a member next year.
Well, and he literally was just kind of like a 7th, 8th inning guy where they brought him in to just get out of jams, and he did a really good job. And another guy that I think is interesting, and I just thought he sucked. Like, I just don't think he was very good, but he always put up really good numbers, was Darren O'Day. And he was with them forever. That guy was there forever.
Darren O'Day, you know what? I have it right here. Darren O'Day is a member of the Utopian Baseball Universe, and if I don't have the answer now, I believe he's a Texas Ranger.
Okay, that's where he was before going to Baltimore.
Yeah, so Darren O'Day was actually 5-3 out of that bullpen last year. He had a pretty decent ERA. He's going to make there's a spoiler for you when we do our Rangers show, which is going to be another great show. Nate Miller, Billy Ball are going to be on that show, but Darren O'Day is in the universe, and we're gonna hear his name a lot. And that Rangers actually open the season versus the Mets.
Well, good
Nick,
for him.
Good for him. Nick, do you have anything else you want to talk about tonight? It's good to see you. We need to do wings very soon. Very soon.
We're almost on the opposite side of this thing. So
now, what do you mean when you say that?
COVID.
Okay. I thought like you were anti-wings there for a second.
Oh no, God.
Like I thought maybe you're turning heel and you don't want to.
No, they're have you neighborhood draft has been my wing place as of late.
Yeah, I've just been making my own, and
There you go.
my sister, if Jill's watching this tonight, my lovely sister, she and I are actually going to have wings very soon. I have a friend of mine who's on Facebook, but not in this group, because I don't know why. I don't know why Andrea is not in this group. I'm going to call her out. I'm calling her out right now. Andrea, you need to join the universe. Of course, you're not seeing this because you're not in the group. She got me a gift card for Christmas, and my sister and I are going to enjoy some wings at some point. But
Where?
Buffalo Wild Wings. It's
B-dubs.
B-dubs. Just chalk wings.
So how are you making your wings?
I just deep fry them, and I've got my. If anyone is watching tonight knows me well, half of my fridge is mustards and hot sauces.
Yep.
So what I do is I'll put the wings in the oven for about 12 minutes. If I want them a little crispy, I'll put them in a little bit longer, and just go to town on all my Heatonist purchases in the last 9 months.
There you go.
So,
I actually the best thing that I've found this week, there is this sauce. Do you like mayo?
I hate mayo, but tell me about your sauce.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, it matters. Convert me.
No, this is it's not actually mayo. It's a garlic sauce that comes in a jar that looks like mayo, but it's just this garlic sauce.
I'll try it.
Awesome. Do you like garlic?
I love garlic. When I go to B-dubs, I'm spicy garlic all day, parm garlic all day, and mango habanero some of the day.
Well, this stuff is like it's called a dip spread.
Okay.
And
look at this. All right, bring the phone. All right, here we go. I'll try it. Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, I could see this being awesome just smothered on a nice sandwich.
Damn, I'm getting hungry. You know what else we got to do at some point? We got to have lunch at
Glorioso's.
Yeah. That Italian roast beef combo sandwich is one of Earth's beautiful things.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. It needs to be this country's currency. That's how good it is.
Screw Bitcoin.
Screw Bitcoin. I don't know anything about Bitcoin. That's for another show. I don't know anything about Bitcoin. What else, Nick? What else is on your mind? I hope to see you very soon. Obviously, we got fantasy coming up in August. Who knows if we'll be able to do a in-person draft? But would you be willing to do a Vegas draft at some point? We got to do a Vegas draft, right?
Yeah, not this year though.
Not this. No. It would have to be, certain things. Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. If all the situation worked out, I would absolutely be in for a Vegas draft.
Maybe one day we'll have a Utopian Baseball Universe show from Vegas.
Live.
A live show. One of my goals, actually, because I know some former Major League Baseball players have been invited to this group. They haven't accepted yet, but at some point I'd like to get them on the show to talk about their careers. I've got some actually big surprises to announce in the next couple of weeks about future guests of the show.
Nice.
Nick, you've been fantastic. You're a handsome gentleman. You're way better looking than I am. I always look like I haven't showered in 2 days. This hat is probably 15 years old. So I appreciate you being on the show. You're going to come on again at some point this year?
Absolutely.
Would you, and again, I feel like I put people on the spot here. We're doing a trivia tournament this summer. Would you like a piece of that trivia tournament?
I'll try.
All right.
I tend to avoid trivia, though, because I'm just not very good at. I remember a lot of things. It's just not things like that.
That's okay. There are no, I want to tell everyone watching, there are no wrong answers. If I ask you to be on a show and you say no, that's fine. But I want everyone to know that you're all welcome. So anyone watching tonight, you're welcome to be in that trivia tournament.
Well, throw me a text
I'll throw you a text.
you do one, and we'll see.
All right, sounds good.
I'll give it a whirl.
He'll give it a whirl. Folks, Nick Knuckles was my guest tonight. I'm Joey Buckholtz. Tomorrow,
Good to see you.
good to see you. I'm going to keep you on here for the last minute. Tomorrow, Houston Astros, 7 o'clock Central Time. Hope to have, Nick doesn't like this. My guest will be Jeff V. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his last name. He's going to do that for you tomorrow because I'm gonna screw it up. Jeff V will be my guest tomorrow, and then Friday is going to be a fun show. We're going to have. I'm getting my Friday and Saturday mixed up here again. I have to look at my notes. I'm very sorry. Here we go, Friday and Saturday. So Friday, Jamie Howell, Pittsburgh Pirates. And then Saturday is going to be a friend of mine named Tim St. Clair. Him and I, we've never met. He lives in Jersey, but we're going to talk baseball movies, and we're gonna feature the Colorado Rockies that night. And at 2 o'clock Saturday, I did this last year before the season started. It was very humbling because I think we had one viewer. So I'm looking to get at least 2 viewers Saturday at 2 o'clock. I'm doing a question and answer for 1 hour. I'll talk until I see the questions. Before we leave tonight, though, we do have a number of comments and questions, maybe. These are all anonymous until I see them later, but we just have a couple people saying hello. Somebody was at Game 4 of the 2008 series against Philadelphia, so we'll find that out here in a bit. Here's a question for you, Nick. Chris Davis in 2021, over/under 15 homers.
Under.
Under 15? I'm going to say over.
I think he gets cut.
Oh, interesting. Somebody said they're watching us from their actual television. Somebody says they've never heard of Chris Hoiles. Here's a really quick Chris Hoiles story. He was the first player that I was aware of as a fan who hit, it's called a samurai slam. It's a game-winning grand slam where the team is actually down 3.
Oh.
And he did that when I was a kid, so that's why he's in this universe, because he hit the first samurai slam that I was aware of. Somebody's daughter.
I feel like those happen more often than we think.
It hasn't happened a ton, because I remember when it happened, it was like a big news that night. So we have someone says their daughter says hi. Spicy garlic all day. Whoever said that, I want to be best friends with you. And then somebody is posting some sort of ad. So we'll find out what that is later. An ad for something. All right. Nick, thank you for being with me tonight. We'll have you again. We'll have you on at some point this year if the Brewers are doing cool things. And
hey, watch out for this team this year. I think they're going to be very good.
You're talking about this Orioles franchise?
And the Brewers.
And the Brewers. Yep. And our Brewer show is coming up very soon.
The real Brewers.
The real Brewers. This is, we're talking fake stuff here, but the real Brewers. Oh, the last thing I want to mention before we go off the air, because I thought this was really funny. There's a website, I think it's called Fangraphs, that did like projections for all the teams. Did you see this? It was
I know. I check Fangraphs.
So Fangraphs is giving the Baltimore Orioles less than 1% chance to make the postseason, and then Orioles fans went nuts. So then they recalculated it, and they gave every team in the major leagues a 100% chance, and Baltimore a 0% chance. So Fangraphs is trolling the Orioles. I love it.
Oh, that's perfect.
I love it. So that's how we're going to end tonight, guys. Again, thank you to Nick Knuckles, Nick Korth. We're going to see you guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock with a new friend of mine, Jeff, and we're going to talk Houston Astros baseball. We got Jamie on Friday. We got Tim on Saturday. And then Sunday night is the Minnesota Twins with I can't wait to tell the story. I was actually in this gentleman's house the day he was born, Justin Pfeffer. It's a true story. You're going to have to watch Sunday, Nick, to get the rest of that teaser. So have a good night, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7. Take care.